Good morning, students. I am Dr. Ranjan Kumar, Assistant Professor at Amity School of Communication, Amity University, Madhya Pradesh. Today we are going to talk about newspapers terminology. It's going to be an interesting lesson. So newspapers are something we all read or at least see often. So they give us the important information about what's happening in the world. But did you ever wonder what the words they use in the newspaper? So that's what we will be exploring today. So let's start our journey to discover these newspapers terminologies. So masthead. So masthead in a newspaper is like the official title or the logo. It's the big fancy name at the very top of the front page you would find. You will see it on the other pages as well. So the masthead shows the name of the newspaper and often has a special design or a picture that connected to the newspaper. So you might also find a very catchy phrase there, like a slogan or to tell you what the paper is all about. So the masthead is bit like the newspaper's signature. It's how you recognize it and know what it's all about. So the next important terminology is the table of contents. We are aware about the table of contents, what it is about. So in a newspaper title, the table of content is a bit like a map. It's right at the beginning and it shows you what inside the paper and where to find it. So if you are looking for the sports news or want to know that what about the sports page and what is happening inside of the page or in your town, so you can check in the table of content as well. It helps you to quickly figure out which pages has the stories or the sections you are interested in. So it's like having a guide that makes it easier to find the stuff you want to read in the newspaper. The next important, it is the body. So body in the newspaper terminology is what? We might have been reading the inverted pyramid, that will be discussed also. So in a newspaper, the body is like the heart of the story. So when you open a newspaper and start reading a story, the body is where you find all the important details and the informations like why and how. So even in the inverted pyramid format or the style, the body of the article provides more in-depth of informations and background and additional context of the stories. So that is what the body. Next, we will be studying about the kicker important terminologies in the newspaper, and it's a new, many of you might have been not aware of it, these terminologies, but it is the very important, which is used as a kind of the headline. So a kicker is like the catchy trailer for a story. It's a short and the snappy headline that comes just before the main headline of an article. So this little headline gives you a sneak peek of what the story is all about. It's like an appetizer before the main meal, right? The kicker is there to grab your attention and make you curious about the stories that follows. It's kind of like the trailer you see for a movie. So it's a hint at what's the coming up and get you interested in the full story. Okay. So next it is the decker. So kicker and decker is very similarities, but there is a slight difference in between of it. We will tell you at the last that what the decker is. First we will try to understand. So a decker is like an extra story that hangs out next to the main one. It's usually related to the main story in some way. Imagine you are reading a newspaper and next to the big of headline you see the another small story. So that the small story is the decker. So it's there to give you more information or a different angle on the same topic, right? So it's like a bonus story that you get it alongside the main one, kind of like getting an extra cookies with your an ice cream. So it's a more of a good thing that's related to the words you are already reading. So kicker is located at the above the headline and decker is located at the below of the headline, right? So when the editor have the three different headlines, they place in that way. Okay. So next important terminologies which we will discuss, that is subhead. So a subhead is like a mini headline within an article. It's smaller than the main headline and breaks the article into the various sections, or we can say smaller sections. So subheads help you figure out what each part of the article is all about. So when you are reading the long stories in the paper, you might notice these smaller headlines that gives you quick idea of what coming up the next. Okay, so it's kind of like a road sign that tells you what to expect on your journey through the article, so making it easier to navigate and find the parts you are the most interested in. So next important terminologies which you all are aware of it, that is byline, right? So what is byline in the newspaper terminologies? So byline is like the name tag for the persons who wrote the article. It's usually found at the beginning or end of an article, tells you the author's name. So if you read a story in the newspaper and wonder who wrote it, you can find the answer in the byline. Okay, so it's a way to give the credit to the writer and let you know who is responsible for this particular piece of the news or the story or information. Okay, so it's like when you see a signature on a painting, it's tell you who credited it. In the same way in the newspaper, if anyone write a beautiful stories, that it tells you who written it. Okay, so next it is important that pull quotes. What is this terminologies in the newspaper? So it's like the standard sentences or the phrases that you sometimes see the pulled out of an article and made bigger or bolder. So they are designed to catch your eye and give you a taste of the most important and interesting part of the story. So it's a bit like when you are skimming a book, or certain sentences are highlighted to grab your attention. So in that times, these pull quotes make the key points in the article that stands out and can help you quickly understand what the story is about, even if you don't read the whole entire stories or the thing. Okay, so they are like the little signpost within the article pointing to the highlights. Okay, so this could be understood as an pull quotes. The next important, it is jump line, right? So jump line is like a road sign telling you to keep reading. Okay, so when an article is too long to fit on one pages, which every news item cannot be fit on one page, so you might see a note like the continued on page, right? So that X with a jump line. So it's there to guide you that next pages where will start, so where the article will continues. So if you reading a really interesting story and suddenly reach at the end of the page, so don't worry, just follow the jump line to the right pages to finish the article. Okay, so it's like a little arrow pointing you in the right direction, so you don't miss out on the rest of the stories. Okay, so this is what the jump line you might see in the picture as it's here indicated. Okay, so next it is just continuation head. So continuation head and that jump line, it is very similar. So that continuation head is basically like a friendly reminder that story is carrying on the front from a previous page. When an article is too long or to fit on one page, you might see a continuation or the continued from the page 1, page 2 headed at the top of the new page. So it's there to let you know that the story you were reading continues on this page, so you don't lose any tracks of what happenings, and it's like a bookmark of your reading journey, making sure you don't miss out on any part of the story. Okay, so that is what the continuation head. Next important terminologies which we'll be discussing about it here, that running head. So running head, it's also an important terminology. It's like a name tag or the section or the label or the category of the news. It's a short label usually found at the top of the each page, and it tells you what kind of the news you will find on that page. So for an example, you might see sports at the top if the pages is all about the sports stories. So it helps you quickly figure out what you are going to read. Thinking of it's like a little signpost that guides you through the newspaper, so you can easily find the stories that interested you. Okay, Next, it is about folio line. So what the folio line? You might have been seen the rectangular line, which a color line that placed on every pages of the newspapers, and that is the like a helpful label that shows you the page number and sometimes the section title as well. So it's usually at the top or the bottom of the each of the pages you would find, and it tells you where you are in the newspaper. So if you are reading a story and want to know that what pages you are on and which sections you are in, so that it just look like it's folio line. Okay, so that is an important terminology which is basically described in this way. An important thing it is now the mugshot. Very important terminologies, that it's not what you are thinking, it has nothing to do with this drink or the faces, but instead it's a small picture of a person face, usually accompanied by their name. Okay, so you can see in the picture that we had attached it here to make you understand better. So you will see often often a mugshot in the newspaper when they are reporting on someone, like a person who has been arrested, or a new employee could be, or sometimes even just a regular person featured in a story. So it's like a little ID photo to help you recognize when they are talking about in the article. So when in the newspaper a mugshot is a face, that name combo to put a person's identify in front of you. Okay, so or you can say that person's identification is in front of you, that who is basically and who is telling and who has been arrested and who is missing out in that all basically framed in the mugshot. Next important, it is about the captions. So captions is like the words under a photo that explains the what happening in the picture. It's like the little story or the short descriptions that tells you who or what is in the photo and why it's important. So when you look at any picture in the newspaper, the caption is there to give you the scoop about what's going on. It's like a tour guide for the images, making sure you understand that who, what, when, and where of the scene in that picture. Okay, so that is what the caption. Next important terminologies is about credit line. So credit line is like giving a credit for that particular items, or that items could be of the news, music, and any could be. So credit line is giving the credit to the photographer or the source of a picture in the newspaper. It's a small note often found near a photo that tells you who took this picture or when it came from. Okay, so it's like saying thank you to the persons who created or provided that particular image. So when you see a beautiful or interesting photo in a newspaper, the credit line tells you who deserves this applause for this capturing that particular moment or providing this picture. Okay, so that is what the credit line. Next, we will be understanding about the mailing panel. Okay, so what the mailing panel, the important terminologies is also these things. So a mailing panel is a white space, or it's like a special sections or area of the newspaper where you might find an important information for subscribers or the people who want to get the newspaper in mail. Okay, so it's like a dedicated space in the newspaper that includes the detail on how to subscribe or renew a subscription or change your address, or sometimes you might also find an offer or promotions related to the getting the newspapers delivered to your doorsteps. Okay, so that is what the mailing panel. Next, we will be understanding about that is dateline. You might have been seeing the dateline in the every news stories. Okay, so that basically describing as a little label at the beginning of the stories you would find that tells where this stories talks, from where this stories talks and when this stories was reported. It typically appearing at the start of an article and providing an important context that the dateline includes the name of the place where the events in the stories happened and date when the reporters gathered this particular information. Okay, so that is the place and the time and date is very, very important for this dateline. Okay, the next important, it is about the imprint line. So what the imprint line, right? So imprint line is like the fine print at the end of a newspaper that gives you important details about the publication. Okay, what kind of the important details? It typically includes the informations about the newspaper's name, where it's published, the publisher name, and the contact informations, and etc. and etc. So it's a bit like the credits at the end of the movie, which you find out that who made this particular film. Okay, that's like in the same way in the newspapers that it's given. Okay, so next it is about the mogul. What it is called the mogul in the newspaper terminology. So it's a storage area or the archive we can understand, where the newspapers keep their old articles or the photographs and other historical materials. Okay, so think of it as an library of the newspapers past. Okay, so the mogul stories the modules stores all the clippings and the files from the previous editions. So if you want to look up a news stories from the years ago, you can find it there. Okay, so we had read it about the various terminologies, right? So these all important terminologies are very in context of the exam, as for the information, just for the sake of the knowledge, as well as the mailing panel. You can see the pictures in the slides which we can understand the various things, that how in the Statesman and the various newspaper, how the mailing panel has been placed in the form of the barcode. Now it is placed, right? As for the promotion and advertisement, it is placed. Okay, now the credit line, as we can see, that it identifies the photographer, which we had discussed it. The various images has been placed here, we can see it, right? So we are just revising this all things from the that end to the start, right? So we had gone through the descriptions about each of the terminologies. Now we are just revising in a short glance. Okay, so the caption, which we can see in the three images, which is basically a short piece of the text which are appearing at the below of a paragraph or the below of the photographs. Okay, that is what it's basically the captions. You can see in this all three pictures, the caption is there, which basically describing what the photo is talking about. Next, that is mugshot. So that you can see as in defense ministers, the Mithun Kumar and the various the arms expert and all, that there is nothing negatives like the mugshot. Do not consider it in the negative way that always it will be in the some arrested and missing out and some culprits and victims that placed in the mugshot. Not even the ministers and some kind of the important information which you want to announce, that could be also placed in the form of mugshot. Okay, that folio line which you can see, that basically placing and the page numbers, the newspaper titles, and also with the slogans and various additional information is given in that the colorful, the rectangle one, which is placed at the top and the bottom of the newspaper. That running head, as you can see, the running head is same here in the two pictures, which has been here and understood as a label or categories, which you can find it, which is at the top of the each page you would find. Okay, continuation head is just when you go through the jump line, and that remaining stories can be read as a continuation head, which you can see that all the news stories which are looking in the form of headline, that is the remaining article of the front page, which has been continued as a jump line, right? So jump line and jump line and the continuation head, it is the vice versa. So jump line, it is after the jump line you will find the continuation head. Okay, next it is about the pull quotes, which we had understood that it is written as an inverted comma. Okay, and that any highlighted statement, it is there, that in form of things that it is written, right? So you can see in the pictures that it has been attached here, like Justice Seema Kohli has been given some statement, and that is an important, and it has been highlighted so that you can stand out these things. Okay, byline, that is the basically that who that the credit of the stories, who has covered these stories. It basically gives the credibility of the newspaper as well, and it also it is important for the authors and the writers as well. Okay, next it is the subhead, which you find in between of the articles. The several subheadlines are created in order to understand that what in the big paragraph it is talking it about. Okay, so that you can categorize in various subheadlines. The decker, which is located at the bottom of the headline, which we had described you, that basically is the summary or the brief statement of the headline. Okay, next it is about the kicker. So kicker and the decker, kicker is found at the top of the headline, and that decker is found at the bottom of the headline. Okay, body, that we read in that lead, body, and conclusion in the inverted pyramid. Same in here, the body, which describes details of details phenomena of that particular stories. Okay, table of contents, as you can see in the pictures, that basically it navigates about the each pages of the newspapers. Okay, masthead, that is important. Without masthead, nothing. No newspaper has its own value without the masthead. Okay, so masthead basically gives an identity of the newspaper. So these all were the important terminology. You must revise all these important terminologies, which always you ask in the exam, several competitive exams. And also it's important, and you have to find these all terminologies in the newspaper as well, where it is located. It's kind of the assignment, and it's kind of the activities which the students can practice and find it, that what is masthead and what is the credit line, byline, mugshot and all. You can find it, and you can cut it the pictures, and you can paste it in our chart paper. So that is what the important things which we had described about the all important terminologies. So I hope you have gained valuable insight into the newspaper terminology. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to our next session.